Hindi nga, kayo nga, sana eh. Well, I think that this has been a very constructive, if sometimes depressing, at some point depressing discussion. But overall, I think it's a very constructive, positive discussion. New insights have been generated, and new viewpoints have been raised. At times, we were quite hard on ourselves, that we keep pointing very sharply at our flaws, the weaknesses of our culture. But many have pointed out to the many qualities of the Filipino that show during times of crisis, the resilience of the Filipino. And out of that strength and resilience, I think may come we may be built from that strength and resilience, and we may have a new Philippines. I say new Philippines because from where we are starting now, it's literally, practically from the bottom. We have no way to go but up. If you read closely the Asian Development Bank study of the 48 economies of Asia, the Philippines, let me say first, the Asian Development Bank divided the 48 economies of Asia into 3 categories. The first category is the group of 7 countries, which is spearheading the dynamism and the strength of Asia: China, India, Japan, Korea, Singapore, Taiwan, etc. 7 countries. That's the first tier. The second tier is composed of about 11 countries, which includes Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, etc., etc. And the third tier, the last one, is composed of the rest of the Asian economies, and we belong to that third category. And on that level, we are classed with all the TANs in Central Asia, Kyrgyzstan, and so many TANs, and including Bangladesh. So that's where we are starting if you follow and believe in the projections of the ADB, and I would take it as more or less accurate as of this moment. But that means that we have a long way to go before we can even compete within our region of the ASEAN. And as I said at the opening, right now, based on the competitiveness leagues that have been coming out regularly, the Philippines beats only Cambodia and Timor-Leste. And that's quite a shock and a shame. So, but from that perspective, as I said, there's nowhere to go but up for the Philippines. But we must get our act together. We must now begin focusing on the important things that a country and a country must do. And as far as I see, we must concentrate on the most valuable renewable resource the Philippines has, and that is its people. We must invest in building up the talent and the skills of the Filipino, because we are so creative and artistic. As one of our panel members said, Dr. Magay, now the premium is not on linear thinking, on the rational, as has happened, the use of the left brain. The people who now create wealth and move the economy are the right thinking, not the right thinking, the right brain, which is the creative, the passionate type of people, the artists, the architects, the designers, not so much the lawyers and the accountants It's the engineers and the scientists who are creating the new world in this new era of the internet and information communication. So that is what we ought to concentrate on, building up our human resource, our human capital. And secondly, of course, is connecting those roads so that it goes somewhere, and building those bridges so that it will connect islands, and opening up our country's access. What else? Food. In these times of crisis, we just have to concentrate on food. So if we do that in the near term, because this is like an emergency program, helping your people, building your access, and feeding them, then I think the Philippines will become, I hope, competitive, and despite some of the cultural faults and weaknesses we may have, I think slowly, as we begin to interact with the wider world, as we begin to open up to our Sino-Chinese roots and to our Hispanic roots, as we begin to open up and become, if we internationalize our education system, our curriculum, our student body and faculty, then I think even as an archipelago, we'll begin to cease thinking parochially, and we begin to think more globally while planning locally. So there's so much going for the Philippines. It's just a pity, it's really a pity that perhaps we, the present leadership of politics, business, arts, and culture, may not be working as hard and concentrating as single-mindedly as we should on doing what we must do for our people. The aim is to raise the living standards of the Filipino, because we are being left behind every year that passes. So, on that note, let us congratulate our host and convener, Frankie Sionil. And let us hope. Now, I'm trying to answer Joseph's question. What will happen next? I hope and pray that this kind of introspection and strategic planning and thinking will happen more often than 24 years. We hope that this can now become, perhaps if not a biennial event, at least once every 4 years. But that may be once every 4 years, so that we can, because I used 4 years as a guide, because technology changes every 3 years now. And unless we catch the transformation of technology, then we will also be late in planning and thinking with the times. So I hope that we will be able to do that and interact and relate to each other more often than what we are doing. So again, thank you very much, and thank you, Frankie.
Sobrang kunti.